Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The thing about black market cybernetics labs is that nobody ever cleans them. You'd think a facility performing illegal, species-ending experiments would at least invest in a mop, but no. Marcus Cade lay strapped to a surgical table surrounded by rust stains that were probably blood, watching an alien engineer named Threk Vol hum to himself while adjusting a device that looked like a jar of angry lightning. You know, Marcus said, most job postings mention the part where they're going to shove forbidden technology into your spine. It was in the fine print, Threk said, not looking up. He had 4 eyes, 3 of which were focused on his tools, and one lazily rolled toward Marcus like an afterthought. You signed the fine print. I signed it for the signing bonus. Yes. Humans are very predictable that way. The device in the jar was a Kryvax battle core. Marcus had heard the term exactly once, whispered by his employer like it was a dirty word, which, as it turned out, it absolutely was. Outlawed technology from a war 3 species had fought and 2 species had lost so badly they stopped existing afterward. The Galactic Concord had spent the last few centuries hunting down every last fragment of battle core tech and grinding it into scrap, because the last time someone successfully implanted one, the recipient had reduced a moon to gravel out of what witnesses described as mild irritation. So just to clarify, Marcus said, this is the tech that ended civilizations. 3 of them, yes. And you're putting it in me. Correct. Why me? Threk finally looked at him with all 4 eyes. Because you're human. Soft. Short-lived. Emotionally erratic in ways our simulations couldn't fully model, which made you, and I quote my employer directly, an acceptable loss if it goes wrong. That's flattering. I thought so too. Marcus stared at the ceiling, doing the math on his life choices, and concluded that the math had never been his strong suit. Will it hurt? Yes. Great. Enormously. Fantastic. Let's get it over with, then. Threk pressed the device against the base of Marcus's neck, and the world exploded into white. Nobody had ever successfully implanted a battle core in a human before, mostly because nobody had ever been stupid enough to try. Human neurology, it turned out, ran on a different bandwidth than the previous test subjects, faster, messier, driven by something the old research notes referred to only as irrational persistence. The core wasn't designed for that. It was designed for calm, calculating war minds that would use its power efficiently and sparingly. It got a screaming cargo pilot instead. Marcus's back arched off the table as the core fused into his spine, his skin lighting up with thin blue lines like a circuit board having a nervous breakdown. Every alarm in the lab went off at once. Threk, for the first time since Marcus had met him 3 hours ago, looked something other than smug. That's not supposed to happen, Threk said, backing away. What's not supposed to happen, Marcus bellowed, and then, apparently unable to stop himself, ripped the restraint straps clean off the table like they were made of wet paper. That, Threk said. That specifically. Marcus sat up, chest heaving, veins glowing faintly blue beneath his skin. He looked at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. Then, because his brain needed something to do with the sheer amount of adrenaline currently trying to kill him, he stood up, walked to the reinforced blast door at the end of the lab, and tore it off its hinges. It came off easier than a bathroom stall. Huh, Marcus said, staring at the door now lying at his feet. Neat. Threk stared at him. You just removed a door rated to withstand small arms fire. Yeah. With your hands. Yeah. I would like to reiterate that this was not supposed to happen. Marcus set the door down gently, as if that would somehow undo the last 30 seconds. So what exactly did you people put in me? A weapon, Threk said. A very, very illegal weapon. The core converts stress, adrenaline, aggression, basically anything your body produces when it's about to die, into raw physical and energy output. The angrier or more scared you get, the stronger you become. It's meant to make one soldier equivalent to an army. Marcus considered this. So I'm a war criminal now. You're a battery that runs on being annoyed. Congratulations. That tracks, Marcus muttered. That tracks so hard. Word travels fast when you accidentally rip a blast door off in a black market lab, and it travels even faster when the lab's silent partners realize their brand new superweapon just woke up and immediately started asking uncomfortable questions like, "Wait, can I leave?" By the time Marcus and Threk made it 2 corridors down, the station's internal comms were already buzzing with a very different kind of alarm, the kind that belonged to the Galactic Concord, not the smugglers who ran the lab. They called the Concord, Threk said, checking a wrist display and looking personally offended by the betrayal. My employer sold us out to save their own skin. Cowards, Marcus said. Extremely predictable cowards. Administrator Yolande Bess received the report in her office aboard the Concord cruiser Diligent Accord roughly 4 minutes later, and her first reaction was to sigh, the specific sigh of someone who has just been handed several hundred pages of paperwork she did not ask for. A battle core, she repeated to the junior officer standing at attention. Implanted in a human. Yes, Administrator. The species we specifically flagged as biologically unsuitable for augmentation testing. Yes, Administrator. The species whose entire cultural profile includes phrases like, "Hold my drink." I don't have that context, Administrator, but I believe so, yes. Bess pressed 2 fingers to the ridge of her nose. Dispatch a containment team. Quietly. I would like this handled before it becomes an incident, rather than after it becomes a legend. Understood, Administrator. It would, of course, become a legend. Bureaucrats are rarely granted the luxury of getting what they ask for. The containment squad found Marcus and Threk in the station's cargo bay, trying and failing to steal a ship that Threk swore was basically unlocked, and was, in fact, extremely locked. 6 armored soldiers fanned out around them with weapons raised, moving with the crisp professionalism of people who had trained for exactly this scenario and were about to discover that no scenario had prepared them for Marcus Cade. Human, the squad leader said through a helmet speaker, voice flattened by translation software into something almost bored. You are in possession of prohibited technology. Surrender for containment and processing. Processing, Marcus repeated. That sounds like a word people use before something bad happens to you. It is administrative language for. I'm going to go ahead and skip that, thanks. The soldier fired a warning shot that was not, in any meaningful sense, a warning, because it was aimed directly at Marcus's chest. Under normal human circumstances this would have been the end of the story. Under current circumstances, Marcus's body reacted to the immediate threat of death by flooding his system with the exact chemical cocktail the core had been built to feed on, and the world slowed down just enough for him to watch the plasma bolt coming and think, with mild annoyance, not today. He moved. Nobody in the cargo bay, including Marcus, could really explain afterward how he'd dodged a point-blank shot, but dodge it he did, sidestepping with a speed that turned his outline into a blur. The soldiers opened fire in earnest. Marcus, panicking in the most productive way a human being has ever panicked, grabbed the nearest shipping container, a 2-ton steel crate, and threw it at the squad like it was a beanbag. It connected. 3 soldiers went down. The other 3 stood very still, apparently recalculating their entire understanding of the situation. Okay, Marcus said, breathing hard, staring at his own hands again. Okay, that was kind of awesome, actually. Focus, Threk hissed, dragging him toward the ship they'd been failing to steal. I'm focused. I'm very focused on how I just threw a shipping container. Focus on the part where we're leaving before more of them arrive. They made it aboard the freighter, a rust-streaked, wheezing vessel named, according to a crooked plaque on the bridge, the Modest Prophet, just as reinforcements poured into the cargo bay. Threk threw himself into the pilot's seat, slapped the ignition sequence with more violence than necessary, and the ship's ancient engines coughed to life like an old man being woken from a nap. "Fly, fly, fly," Marcus said, watching more soldiers stream in through the viewport. "I am flying, this ship simply does not believe in urgency." The modest prophet lurched out of the cargo bay in a cloud of its own smoke, dodging a spray of plasma fire by what Marcus was fairly sure was pure luck rather than piloting skill, and then they were in open space, and the station was shrinking behind them, and Marcus finally allowed himself to breathe. "We're fugitives now," he said. "We were fugitives the moment they put that thing in your spine," Threk said. "This is just the part where everyone else finds out." The wider galaxy, it turned out, had two very different reactions to the news that a battle core had been successfully implanted in a human. The black market faction that had funded the operation, a loose collection of profiteers who went by the unimaginative name Aetheris Consortium, wanted Marcus back so badly they put a bounty on him that made planetary governments blink. A working battle core wasn't just valuable. It was the single most valuable object in known space, and they intended to reclaim their investment. The Concord, meanwhile, wanted him erased. Quietly, efficiently, and before anyone got the idea that humans, loud, stubborn, aggressively undignified humans, might make good hosts for the deadliest weapon in galactic history. Both sides sent people. The Consortium sent mercenaries. The Concord sent soldiers. And somewhere in a war room 3 sectors away, a decorated general by the name of Irides Kor watched the reports come in and decided, with the confidence of a man who had never once lost, that hunting down one panicked human would be the easiest assignment of his career. "A human," Kor said, turning the word over like it tasted bad. "Soft. Emotional. Short-lived. This will not be difficult." His aide, a nervous young officer named Dessa, cleared her throat. "Sir, the reports indicate he threw a shipping container." "Adrenaline. A fluke. Humans panic and get lucky exactly once before they die of fear or stupidity, usually both." Kor stood, straightening the medals on his uniform, each one a small monument to an enemy he'd already beaten. "I will bring him back myself. It will make an excellent addition to my record." Every villain says some version of this sentence right before things go catastrophically wrong for them. Kor, unfortunately, had not read enough history to know that. On board the modest prophet, things were going about as well as could be expected, which is to say Marcus had already broken one door, dented a wall, and nearly vented an airlock by sneezing. "Explain to me," Threk said, staring at the airlock control panel Marcus had just crushed with a single sneeze-adjacent flinch, "how a sneeze did that." "I don't know. My body doesn't know the difference between mild allergy and imminent death anymore, apparently. This is a problem." "You think?" Threk pulled up a display and began running diagnostics on Marcus's biometrics, muttering to himself in a language Marcus's translator didn't fully catch, though the tone suggested several new and creative curse words. The core reads danger signals and threat responses and converts them into output. The issue is that your nervous system doesn't distinguish gradients well. Everything registers as either fine or apocalyptic. So I need to learn control. You need to learn control before you sneeze this ship into an asteroid, yes. What followed was, by Threk's later account, one of the most chaotic training regimens he had ever witnessed, and he had once watched a species learn to use plasma weapons by trial and error, which had also gone poorly. They cleared out a section of cargo hold and Threk tried to help Marcus learn to modulate the core's output, with limited success. "Try to get angry," Threk said. "Controlled anger. Not panic." "How do I control being angry?" "I don't know, insult something." Marcus stared at a stack of empty crates. "You're a disappointment to your species," he told them. Nothing happened. "That was pathetic," Threk said. "I'm trying my best." "Try harder. Or don't try at all, and simply be sarcastic." I've noticed your species produces the exact stress chemistry the core wants whenever you're being difficult on purpose. Marcus blinked. Wait, seriously? Test it. Marcus turned to the crates again, planted his feet, and said in his driest possible tone, "Oh no. A stack of boxes. However will I survive this terrifying encounter?" The blue lines beneath his skin flickered to life, faint but present, controlled instead of explosive. Threk's 4 eyes went wide. That's it. That's the trigger. You're telling me sarcasm is a battle stance. I'm telling you that your species apparently produces weapons-grade stress hormones out of pure spite, and I genuinely do not know what to do with that information. Add it to the list, Marcus said, grinning despite himself. It's a long list. Over the following days, something changed between them. What had started as an engineer babysitting his own mistakes slowly became something closer to a partnership, Threk coaching, Marcus learning, both of them trading barbs that gradually stopped feeling like hostility and started feeling like the specific, comfortable rhythm of two people who decided, somewhat against their will, to trust each other. You're less insufferable than when we met, Marcus said one evening, watching stars slide past the viewport. You're less likely to accidentally destroy the ship than when we met, Threk replied. We're both improving. They didn't have long to enjoy the improvement. 3 days later, General Kor's fleet found them. The modest Prophet dropped out of transit lane travel directly into a debris field, the wreckage of some long-forgotten battle, all twisted hull plating and dead satellites, and directly into the crosshairs of 4 Concord warships arranged in a loose net around the field's exit points. Kor's flagship, the Undying Verdict, hailed them within seconds. Kor's face appeared on the bridge display, sharp-featured and supremely satisfied with himself. Human, he said. I am General Irides Kor. You will power down and prepare to be boarded. Marcus leaned back in the co-pilot's seat, arms crossed. You know, everyone keeps using that tone like it's supposed to scare me. Does it usually work? Kor's expression flickered, a small crack in the confidence. You would be wise to be afraid. I'll take it under advisement. In the meantime, no. No? No. I don't think I will power down. I think I'll do the opposite of that, actually. Kor's crew shifted uneasily behind him, unnerved by the sheer flatness of Marcus's delivery in a way they would never have been unnerved by shouting or threats. Kor, however, only laughed. Bold words from a creature that will be dead within the hour. We'll see, Marcus said, and cut the comm. Threk looked at him. That was either very brave or very stupid. With me, it's usually both at the same time. The battle that followed would later be described in official Concord reports as an unanticipated tactical anomaly, which was bureaucratic language for the fact that one human being had single-handedly turned the tide of a 4-ship engagement in a debris field, and nobody wanted to write that down more plainly than they had to. Kor's ships opened fire the moment the modest Prophet tried to break for the debris field's far exit. Threk flew evasively, weaving between broken hulls and drifting wreckage while Marcus braced against the hull plating, watching plasma fire streak past the viewport, feeling the core light up beneath his skin with every near miss. They're gaining, Threk said. Then let them, Marcus said, and there was something different in his voice now, steadier, sharper. Get us alongside the lead ship. I have an idea. Your ideas have historically resulted in property damage. This one's on purpose, at least. Threk brought the freighter in a tight, screaming arc alongside the Undying Verdict's flank, close enough that its hull filled the entire viewport. Marcus made his way to the airlock, and this time, when he tore the door open, he did it deliberately, with the core's power humming through him in controlled waves rather than chaotic spikes. You're not seriously about to. I am seriously about to. He jumped. Vacuum should have killed him in the seconds it took to cross the gap between ships. Instead, the core flooded his system with enough raw output to keep him functional, skin glowing bright blue, as he slammed into the Undying Verdict's hull and simply punched through it, tearing an entry point into the ship like paper. Inside, chaos. Core's soldiers turned to find a human standing in a breach in their hull, completely unbothered, cracking his knuckles. "So," Marcus said. "Which way to the bridge? I'd like to have a word with your general." What followed was less a battle than a demolition. Marcus moved through the ship's corridors, absorbing hits that would have killed anyone else, each impact feeding the core rather than damaging him, converting plasma burns and blunt trauma into more raw strength. He didn't stop talking the entire time, trading deadpan commentary with every soldier he disarmed, treating a superweapon-grade rampage like a bar fight he'd been unfairly dragged into. "You know," he told one particularly persistent soldier, effortlessly catching an incoming blade, "in most bars, this is the point where someone calls security. I feel like you skipped a few steps." He reached the bridge in under 6 minutes. Core stood waiting, weapon drawn, flanked by his remaining officers, face pale with the particular horror of a man watching his entire understanding of the universe collapse in real time. "This is not possible," Core said. "And yet," Marcus said, spreading his hands, "here I am." Core fired. Marcus let the shot hit him, absorbed the impact, felt the core converted into more power than the shot itself had carried, and didn't even flinch. "My turn," he said, and closed the distance in a single stride. He could have killed Core. Everyone on that bridge knew it, and Core knew it most of all, staring up from the floor where Marcus had put him with a single open-handed shove that had nonetheless cracked the deck plating beneath him. But Marcus crouched down instead, closer to eye level, and his voice dropped its sarcasm for just a moment. "I'm not going to kill you," he said. "Not because you don't deserve it. Because I want you to go back and tell every single person in this galaxy exactly what happened here today. Tell them a human did this. Tell them we're not as soft as you thought." He stood, looked around at the wrecked bridge, and allowed himself one last line, because apparently even mid-victory speech, he couldn't resist. "Also, tell them to invest in better door hinges. I'm noticing a pattern." News of what happened above the debris field spread through Concord channels within hours and through the rest of the galaxy within days, growing more dramatic with every retelling, which was, remarkably, difficult to do, because the truth was already dramatic enough. Administrator Bess received the full report in her office and read it twice, very slowly, the way one reads something one is hoping will change on a second pass. It did not change. "He disabled an entire flagship crew," she said. "Alone." "Yes, Administrator." "And declined to kill General Core." "Also yes, Administrator." Bess set the report down and rubbed her temples with both hands. "Containment is no longer viable. He is not a secret anymore. He is a story, and stories are considerably harder to erase than people." Across dozens of worlds, the reaction split predictably. Some species panicked, demanding immediate action against the human threat. Others, more quietly, began asking a far more dangerous question: did humanity have more of these battle cores? Was this some kind of test? A first move in a larger game? The honest answer, that it had been a black market accident performed on a broke cargo pilot who'd taken the job for a signing bonus, was, Bess decided, far too embarrassing to release publicly. Let them wonder. Let them be afraid of a mystery. It was, in its own strange way, better for everyone. Marcus and Threk watched the report scroll past on the Modest Prophet's cracked display, 3 sectors away from anyone actively hunting them, which was, for the first time in weeks, a genuinely nice change of pace. "You're famous," Threk said. "Infamous, probably. Does it feel good?" Marcus considered the question honestly. "It feels like I accidentally became a superweapon while trying to pay off a ship loan, and now half the galaxy is either terrified of me or trying to recruit me, and I still don't have a working shower on this garbage freighter. The shower has been on the list. The list is getting long, Threk. The list has always been long." Marcus laughed, and it was a real laugh, not a bracing for disaster laugh, and Threk found himself doing the alien equivalent of smiling, all four eyes crinkling at the corners. For what it's worth, Threk said, I don't regret this. Somewhat against my better judgment. High praise. Don't let it go to your head. Your head already has enough going on inside it. Marcus leaned back in the co-pilot's chair, watching the stars stretch past the viewport, feeling the faint, steady hum of the core settled quietly beneath his skin, no longer a stranger living in his spine but something closer to a very intense roommate he'd learned to get along with. He wasn't free of the danger, the consortium would keep looking, some faction of the Concord would probably always be nervous about him, and there would be more fights, more idiots who underestimated him, more paperwork he'd never see, but somebody, somewhere, was definitely filling out. But for now, the ship was flying, the coffee was terrible, and nobody was currently trying to kill him, which by recent standards counted as a full vacation. So what now? Threk asked. Marcus shrugged, a small, tired, satisfied motion. Now we find somewhere quiet, fix that shower, and wait for the next idiot who thinks humans are soft. And when they show up? Marcus grinned, and somewhere deep in his chest, the core answered with a warm, steady pulse, like it, too, was looking forward to it. Then I guess the galaxy finds out the hard way, he said, that some things really shouldn't be tested on humans. Mostly because we don't know when to stop. Threk snorted, punched in a new course, and the modest prophet sailed on into open space, carrying a broke pilot, a sarcastic engineer, and one extremely illegal, extremely stubborn piece of forbidden technology that the galaxy was going to have to learn to live with. The end.